expectations of the young people. And I want to say that our priority in us in security, and the reason I joined it, is to ensure that every Ugandan, everyone that comes and lives or even passes in our country is protected, and their property. Security of lives and their and properties is our priority number one. On this space, of course, I have been attacked, and at some stage, I felt like coming in even before you gave me permission. But thank you for having a very organized space and controlling the questions very well, Solomon. I appreciate the fact that I have been allowed to listen in to some people who are so angry, others um, who are asking for protection, which we must provide at all costs. This I speak with uh, with my heart that I chose to offer, and I do protect lives. Solomon, allow me first to do some bit of accountability before I go to specific persons' questions um, that were directly maybe attacking my role or even my personality, because I think it is the academician Spire who, as he was concluding, while he was gentle in his speech, but I heard him say that they are supposed to answer or go for our crimes, the Nakalema's crimes. I can never be a criminal. I chose to love and serve my country, and I do it wholeheartedly. Lillian attacked me, but
Colonel, just for the record, it wasn't Jimmy.
sorry.
It wasn't Professor Sentongo, Jimmy Spire. It wasn't him. I just wanted to clarify. He hasn't spoken on this space yet.
Oh,
But you can
but
go
there's
ahead.
someone who really said that they are here to bring out the crimes, and then say the crimes of the Nakarimas. And sorry, so I didn't get the name, and I apologize for having mentioned
Please
him.
go
It
ahead.
wasn't.
Yes.
Madam Lilian, with all due respect, you really went beyond to say that I will be glad when the people's children will be dying. I have personally protected Ugandans and their children while leading the anti-corruption. I personally led investigations that recovered children that had been sold, that had been brutalized by some of their relatives. And I am on record for fighting for rights of the vulnerable. On the 8th of June 2021, during COVID, I led a team of officers, the then KMP Commander Moses Kafero, Senior Commissioner of Police Kafero. We stood in the park for over 14 hours, standing and rescuing children of Uganda who were stranded in the park. And not that we were part of that. It was COVID that shocked the whole world, and so some of the decisions were made hurriedly to close schools. And so I have personally been on record going beyond the mandate of my deployment, but as a security officer, to protect and ensure that Ugandan vulnerable children who can't speak or decide for themselves are protected. There is a Ugandan that I want to first of all appreciate before I continue. Mr.
Sorry, Kano, before you appreciate that, Ugandan, I just wanted to just a quick interjection. What Juliana was asking is that she made it clear that I hope mothers will not be burying their children tomorrow after the
No,
protest.
Julian.
And as a mother, she was imploring you that people do not shoot at young people who are going to be on the streets.
Well, Juliana, the way she was speaking was like, we don't know what we are doing. I don't think she has seen any Ugandan security officer shooting at children. That can't be. And there, I want to remain on record that really Juliana belittled us. We know what we are doing. We protect our.
Solomon,
We know what we are doing, and we do it with our whole heart.
Solomon.
Nobody can go to shoot
Toko, I'll
students.
bring you in. Let's kind of first submit. Sorry. You're welcome. Continue, ma'am.
No, nobody can choose to shoot a child. Those who died, who died, I think on the 18th of November, it was regrettable to all of us. Those were terrible mistakes, and the lives once lost, we lose them. We wish we had a way to really have them live again. But nobody is planning to kill anyone, at least in the security forces where I belong. Our work is to protect. But we were saying that instead of everybody saying we are coming or to protest, and we are not saying don't express don't express your dissatisfaction in the way government is fighting corruption. We are saying kindly, instead of causing some uncontrollable or controllable movement, uncontrollable movements, can you come to institutions and present the cases where you have not been satisfied? For us, that is our stand. We are saying protests may not answer all the questions that you're having. Engage with us, and we are available. Engage with the government agencies that are responsible for the fight against corruption. The Ugandan I wanted to appreciate, and in answering the many questions that came to me, is Mugeni James, who based in the US. I didn't get the state very well. For rescue, he says that he has been in the mission or in the struggle of rescuing Ugandans who are stranded or live in dehumanizing conditions in the Middle East for 5 years. I will state here that again, during my time heading anti-corruption unit, we rescued 600 Ugandans and brought them back in government interventions, brought them back to our country. And so we appreciate those of you who are doing it as who are doing the protection of Ugandans wherever they are, who are helping or joining the fight against corruption. But we are not seated in government. We are working. The fight against corruption has been on. Yes, it is not satisfying. Yes, corruption is still hurting, but they are all offices that are involved in the fight against corruption, and we want to continue. And we really appreciate the fact that you're coming up as young people to say, from universities, from colleges, wherever you are coming from, to show your dissatisfaction heading to parliament. But we are saying, is heading to parliament in that way is going to answer or to take away the corruption that we are all feeling bad about? Why don't you instead come together and say, we are going to sit here on this day, our route is this? Because I haven't gotten the answer when I said from the start, can we know the routes you want to take, where you're coming from? Yes, your destination, you have been clear. You want to go to march to parliament. But which routes, for example, have you identified or have you asked to follow? Again, if you say police shouldn't deploy, how do you want to be protected if you don't want deployments? So, friends, I still want to state and say we are not stopping anyone, but we are saying the way you want to do it is 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 going to bring us to force us to really put measures that will stop that will that will stop the movement that is maybe not coordinated or not well organized, because it's about ensuring that everyone, wherever they are, where they live, where they work from, where they pass, we need order, we need security. We need to be sure that there is not going to be any crisis, because like they say, prevention is better than cure. They are friends who are saying, no, you protect us and see if there will be violence. How are we sure that you are going to match? How should we wait to see how you're going to get there? How about where you're going to pass? So for us, and again, I am speaking as a soldier, that we would request, and we request from our hearts, that please stay where you are, maybe gather wherever you are organizing yourselves in your areas there, because in every place there is police. Be there and then call government and say, we are here in our districts, in our cities, we have gathered ourselves wherever you are, and then call upon government to come and address your concerns. What else should I say? Me, that's my main appeal. And thank you, those of you who who are appreciating the fact that I have decided to listen in, and I appreciate all your concerns and your appeal, that of the need for protection is our duty. That one, we take responsibility. We must protect you, but we want to protect you in a better environment where you are, or when you are to work, let us know where you're coming from, and and then the route you want to take, so that we deploy you with clear information. But if you're saying, everywhere everybody come up in the morning, and we start the work, we wouldn't like to be in a very disorganized city. Ours is to ensure that there is order, there is security, and that we engage. I allow me apologize on behalf of the government I serve or I work under, that where we have failed to engage you earlier, we are sorry. But now we are saying, please give us a chance to listen to you and tell us what you want us to do, because on our side we are doing everything possible. When I was heading the anti-corruption, and I think it came up that we have been here, we are doing nothing. No, in my 3 years as head anti-corruption unit, which unit is still doing very good work, I am sure that in every year over 100 corrupt or implicated individuals are taken to court. In my time, we took 321, and there were 3 years. We recovered government money back to the consolidated fund, 35 billion shillings. We took accounting officers to court, starting with the former permanent secretary of the office of the prime minister. The CEO, Gaming and Rotary, was convicted. The secretary, Uganda Human Rights Commission, the secretary, Uganda the Equal Opportunities Commission. We cleaned up Post Bank, and it is now doing very well. We took the MD together with his commissioners. Post Bank, as a government bank, is doing very well. We cleaned up Nagric. So we've been working, but the fight against corruption needs every hand. It is I don't agree that government is selecting who to touch and who not. No. Where there has been enough evidence, and with the collaboration and allies, the government is doing everything possible to clean up government. But we know for sure, and we are all in it, that corruption is eating up our country, but we are not seated. Therefore, I request heartily that friends, instead of coming from everywhere, choosing to come and in a way that is not organized according to us in security, because you haven't revealed your roots, you haven't revealed your where you're converging, and so that's why security is now we are deploying. They are deploying everywhere, and I don't speak for police. Neither do I speak for army. Meanwhile, I speak as a security officer or a soldier, because I know that security of everyone is a responsibility of all of us, but it beginning with everyone where they are. I would want to pause at that, and if there is any other question I
All
should
right.
touch, I am available.
All right. Just a quick one before I can bring Inspire, who is my
Yes.
panelist. Kano, someone asked, but don't you see the corruption that is in parliament? I mean, there's sufficient evidence. There's overwhelming evidence that has been brought on the table. And then you choose to look away.
We are not looking away. That's why about 7 members of parliament are already have through courts, are all in prison. I mean, they are on remand. permanent secretary again of trade is under investigation. So I heard actually the person, and I think it was YK, or Mr. Kiria, who was saying, why not touch the speaker? I will not speak for Parliament, and surely for now, I am not heading the anti-corruption unit, but my boss and senior brigadier Isoka is doing his best. Once there is indeed evidence, not verbal, the speaker is not above the law. But now, no one is going to run and take the speaker to court without clear evidence on paper.
All right, thanks a lot. Kano Edith Nakalema there. Thank you very much for your time. Stay with us. I'm just going to bring in my other panelists to make to respond to some of the issues that have been raised. Uh, Professor Jimmy Spire, thank you very much for joining. I know that you've been busy, but let me give you the microphone. You're welcome, sir.
Yeah, thank you, Solomon. I'm sorry for joining late. I got caught up. I got held up. I couldn't really come in on time. But I'm sorry I've missed much of what has been said. So whatever I can contribute, if I'm to repeat myself, it's because I did not hear much of the first part. Yes, Solomon, is there any specific question for me?
We were talking about the conversations has really been largely about the protest tomorrow and the pushback against corruption. The young people are organizing tomorrow. As you may have noticed, there's heavy deployment. Kano Nakalema says that the organizers did not come out to give clear direction, and therefore they have deployed heavily to quell any form of protests. We wanted to hear from you, the march to Parliament tomorrow, what you make of it, and whether you think it will yield any results. You're welcome.
Yeah, I think maybe I would have to start from where all this is coming from. Why would we have this march to Parliament? Why are these young people organizing a march to Parliament? And I think it's not just the young people. There are so many people who are concerned. This has been a concern of, I would say, a wide spectrum of Ugandans, because corruption is affecting each and every one of us. But certainly certain categories are affected less because they find ways of cushioning themselves through what they have stolen and all that. I don't need to go much into that. Now, the other background that we need is the malfunction of the institutions that are supposed to fight against corruption. The little that I heard Kano Nakalema say, and of which I would have to thank her for what she has done, but when you listen, you hear that it's so much about her person and her unit as Kano Nakalema, and not so much about what the institutions, the constitutional institutions that are supposed to fight corruption are doing or they have done. And why would we be concerned about that? The reason as to why we are creating new and newer layers of anti-corruption units, including this one which has now been put up about URA, is because we have not allowed the other constitutional ones to work. The IGG will not come out to say this, but when you engage them privately, they will tell you that there are certain things that they cannot do, there are certain things that the police cannot do. Why is it hard for them to touch certain things? It's because we have allowed a certain culture where certain people cannot be touched. We have allowed a culture where institutions know, those institutions that are supposed to fight corruption, they know where they are supposed to end. They know the point at which, if you try to extend, you'll end up touching the feet or the hands of the president or whichever other powerful person. So in such a context where institutions are not allowed to work, where people have tried petitioning, where people have tried going to court, they have tried to, I'm sure Kano Nakalema knows it, that she's overwhelmed with messages she receives by people crying about corruption. She knows it quite well, although she might not say it here. When we held the exhibitions, I tagged her in a number of the cases, the issues that were raised, the allegations. We can call them allegations for now. There are some few, I think one or two, to which she responded, and of which I wouldn't say I would blame her for that, because as an individual and her institution, they certainly cannot handle all these cases. So in the context of all that desperation, where people have tried all means possible to report people whom they still see, not only moving around freely, not only standing at rallies, public rallies, announcing that as long as you can eat and share with your people, that's okay, and nothing happens to them. Where they see these people still come back to belch at the entire public to show them that no matter how much you talk, you're not going to do anything. What more do you expect those people to do? So if they say that now we are simply going to express our dissatisfaction, our pains, by walking to parliament, and again you come out and say you're not going to walk because of this and this, which is also a constitutional, which is within their constitutional provisions. But you tell them you're not going to walk, the institutions which are supposed to help are not working. What more do you expect those people to do? Listening into what many people are saying, if you read the charts, which I think you check, the messages, you see that there is a lot of anger out there in the public. I don't know whether out there in your circles you ever pause to ask, where is all this public anger coming from? Are these people simply ungrateful? Are they simply very hard to satisfy? Or there is something that we must address? I don't know whether you asked that question. If we cannot engage with where this anger is coming from, and we think that we are simply going to stop whatever measure, initiative that people come up with to fight for their interests, to fight for their legitimate, for their rights, I don't think we are going to address the problem sustainably, because history has it, or the entire world experience will show you that where people have pains that are existential, pains that are about survival, they will always find means, no matter how much you try to suffocate them, to gag them, to frustrate their efforts, they'll find alternative efforts. So that is where I think we should start from. Not simply trying to block, even if you block all these channels, you block the streets and you fill them with tanks or these military, the presence that is supposed to show might, that is supposed to show that we can always handle you, we'll always get back to you, you're not bigger than the state. Small as these individuals seem to be, small as these young people seem to be, at a certain point we will not be able to contain this. And no one wants this, because when violence erupts, you cannot know who is going to be safe. You cannot know who is going to be injured. I don't think it is in any of our interests as individuals that there would be violence. So when the state tries to front violence as if it is a fear of only their side, of only the business community, even those that would want to work, some of these businesses could be owned by our relatives, but even if you leave alone business interests, we could as well end up being injured. The young person who is going to the street there, the young person who is marching to parliament, seeing all those guns, seeing all those soldiers, they know that there is a risk of being shot. They have seen what has happened. Colonel Nakalema, you have mentioned what happened on November 20, 2020. They know all that, and it would mean that since by our natural instinctive drive towards self-preservation, no one would want to die, no one would want to be injured. But ask yourself, why would these people still insist on going there? Are we all just deluded? Are we all just being confused, as the state said, rather the president said the other time, that these people are being used by the opposition and foreigners? That kind of speech implies that he does not appreciate the pains themselves. Why would a foreigner come to try to convince me or any of those young people that corruption is bad, that we should stop corruption, that we should fight these extravagance where you see people flaunting palaces of homes, flaunting whatever kinds of things, generators which are bought on our money for people's private homes? We are paying for their water, we are paying for their electricity, we are paying for their clothes, we are paying for all extravagant kinds of things luxuries that they've ever desired. But you don't seem to appreciate those pains. You don't seem to appreciate the injustice that is embedded in such broad day performances. I think that is where the problem primarily is. We cannot respond to people's pains with arrogance. We cannot respond to people's pains by simply telling them, no, we are doing a lot. You have to continue dialoguing. You have to continue engaging. It's not that people have not tried to engage. It's not that people have not petitioned Parliament. It's not that people have not reported to the IGG. It's not that people have not come to you, Nakalema. But we both know that this has reached a point where we know that if we don't do anything fundamental, nothing is going to happen because we have normalized it. Because if we can hear the president saying that, if I catch all these thieves, whom am I going to work with? If we hear the president saying that, some kinds of corruption are by mistake, rationalizing corruption. And if we also observe that as you arrest these MPs, the ones who are being on charges of cooperatives money, there are others who are not touched. There are others where there is glaring evidence, and I still want to maintain, I know they keep saying that these allegations. There was glaring evidence that came out through the exhibitions and through other things that have been coming up over time, where we don't even see a semblance of an investigation. We don't see concern. Instead, what you see, the president is taking photos with them holding their waist. What kind of message do you think that sends to the general population? That is what should make us understand why people would resort to such things like simply walking, and they are saying they are going to peacefully walk. So what other alternatives are you providing with these people who are now desperately reaching a point where they know no matter what other formal measure we try, nothing is going to happen? When we try to speak out, we are told that we are being funded. When we try to speak out about these existential matters, we are told that those are homosexuals, those are bum shafters, whatever other kind of uncouth language. That is nonsense. That what do you expect if you are the one? And Nakalema, although this might seem like it's addressed to you, it's only because you're the one representing government in courts here. But it is a message that goes out to those, whoever has the power to do something. If you're the one, if you place yourself in the shoes of an everyday person that is struggling with basics, an everyday person that struggles even to find food, that struggles to educate their child, that struggles with small things, and you see all this happening, and you also notice the arrogance with which it is done, and this sense of entitlement by which we are showed that we are nothing, that we cannot do anything. What would you do? How would you feel? Because ultimately this is about being human. We can talk about all laws, we can talk about all whatever else, institutions, but the primary thing that should motivate us in addressing these matters is humanness. As a human being who is in such a condition where you see other people eating on your behalf and wasting on your behalf, what would you do if you are the one? I know it is a bit difficult because some of the people in those positions, some of them have never even lived in lives of deprivation. But there are even those who came from backgrounds of severe deprivation, but having reached up, the priority is to sort of make up for what they did not get maybe in childhood, and they make up by untold showing off and all kinds of things that I think just serve to increase public anger. That's where all this is coming from. And I think the first response when these young people started talking about their protest, their march, would have been, what are the issues? What can we do about those issues? That is the engagement that should have come much earlier. They have been announcing this march, I think, for, is it 2 months? Some people even said, you're not serious. How can you be announcing a march 2 months ahead? They have been announcing from way back, and I think part of the reason was you're testing to see if these people are finally going to be concerned. Nothing until the last minute, where the message that again comes out: this is illegal. Try it. You're playing with fire. You're going to see what will happen if you try it. Are those responses that really show concern? I've not heard any message that says, okay, you have very legitimate concerns and we are going to do something about it. This is what we are going to do. What do you think has not been addressed? And the state tries to address themselves those matters. I've not heard any such a response. What do you humanly expect? Because I would understand that there are some psychological basics the state should have to know what kinds of behavior solicit what kind of responses.